Veromouth didn't just build an empire. They erased entire kingdoms, reshaped continents, and ruled over 1/5 of all humanity. All from a tiny city on the Tiber River. How did they do it? 1. A small city with a ruthless mindset, 4th century BCE. Rome began as a small settlement ruled by kings. But after overthrowing its monarchy in 509 BCE, it became a republic, a governance built on discipline, law, and relentless expansion. According to ancient sources like A.B. Urb Condita, early Romans believed survival depended on strength. Their first enemies were the nearby Latin League, the Etruscans, and the Samnites. The Samnite Wars 343 to 290 BCE became the turning point. After decades of brutal mountain fighting, Rome emerged as the dominant power in Italy. Rome didn't just conquer cities, it built alliances. It offered defeated communities limited citizenship, protection, and a place in Rome's growing system. This Roman alliance network created an army larger than any single Italian state. This was not luck, it was strategy. 2. The war that made Rome a superpower. Punic Wars 264 to 146 BCE. Rome's true rise began when it challenged Carthage, a wealthy maritime empire. The First Punic War, 264-241 BCE, forced Rome to build its first navy. The Second Punic War, 218-201 BCE, produced one of the most dramatic stories in history. In 218 BCE, the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca marched from Spain, crossed the Alps, and invaded Italy. He destroyed Roman armies at Trevia Lake, Trasimene, and Cannae, one of the worst defeats Rome ever suffered. But Rome refused to surrender. Under Quintus Fabius Maximus, they adopted a delay strategy. Under Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus, they took the war to Carthage. Scipio defeated Hannibal at Zama in 202 BCE. Carthage was crushed. Rome now controlled the western Mediterranean. In 146 BCE, after the Third Punic War, Carthage was destroyed. The message was clear. Compete with Rome, and Rome will erase you. 3. Rome dominates the East, 200 to 63 BCE. With Carthage gone, Rome turned eastward. It defeated Macedon in the Macedonian Wars. It crushed the Seleucid Empire under Antiochus III at the Battle of Magnesia 190 BCE. By 63 BCE, the Roman general Pompey the Great conquered Syria and ended the last major Hellenistic kingdoms. Rome wasn't just expanding. It was absorbing the wealth of the ancient world, Greece, the Eastern Mediterranean, and Egypt. 4. The Roman army, the engine of conquest. Rome's military was its true weapon. The legion was a machine of discipline. A typical legion had over 5,000 soldiers, divided into cohorts and centuries. Training was relentless. Punishments were brutal. No other ancient army matched this combination of discipline and engineering. 5. The rise of Julius Caesar, 5844 BCE. Rome conquered Gaul under one man. Julius Caesar. Between 58 and 50 BCE, Caesar defeated tribes led by Vercingetorix, crushed resistance at Alesia, and extended Rome to the Atlantic Ocean. Caesar's commentaries, Commentary de Bello, Gallicarimi, primary sources for these campaigns. By the time he returned to Italy, Caesar's legions were the most experienced forces in the world. But his rise sparked civil war. Against Pompey the Great, Caesar emerged victorious. He became dictator of Rome, introduced reforms, and prepared for new expansions. His assassination in 44 BCE created a power vacuum. But the Roman Empire was already inevitable. 6. The birth of empire under Augustus 27 BCE. Caesar's adopted son, Augustus, defeated Mark Antony and Cleopatra, the 7th at Actium 31 BCE. In 27 BCE, he became the first Roman emperor. Augustus reorganized the army, created permanent legions, established provincial governors, and built an administrative system that held the empire together for centuries. Alloy. Under him, Rome expanded into Egypt, the Balkans, Spain, and parts of the Middle East. 7. The empire at its height 1st–2nd century CE. Under emperors like Trajan, Rome reached its greatest size. From Britannia to the Persian Gulf, from the Sahara to the Rhine, Trajan's conquest of Dacia brought massive wealth. Hadrian consolidated borders, building Hadrian's Wall in Britain. Marcus Aurelius held the empire together during invasions and plague. Rome dominated through superior roads, taxation systems, legal administration, engineering, cultural integration, military presence. The empire became a superstructure no ancient power could compete with. 8. Why Rome could conquer so much. 4 factors explain Rome's success. 1. Military innovation. Legions adapted to new enemies, phalanxes, cavalry, barbarians, and Eastern empires. 2. Political flexibility. Rome could be a kingdom, a republic, an oligarchy, or an empire, whatever the times demanded. 3. Infrastructure. Roads like the Appian Way, aqueducts, ports, and administrative cities kept trade and armies flowing. 4. Cultural absorption. Rome absorbed gods, languages, ideas, and technologies. It didn't erase cultures, it romanized them. Rome did not conquer the world because it was the strongest, but because it was the most adaptable. It learned from every enemy. It stole every good idea. It reshaped every territory it touched. From Hannibal to Cleopatra, from Gaul to Judea, from the Sahara to Scotland, Rome became the most influential empire in human history. But the great irony, the empire that conquered the known world could not conquer its own internal problems. Civil wars, economic collapse, political corruption, divided rule, and finally, invasions by tribes they once called barbarians. Rome conquered the world but could not save itself. Yet its legacy remains everywhere. Laws, languages, architecture, politics, cities, and calendars. 2,000 years later, the world is still living in the shadow of Rome.